recycling. Brought to you by Charleston County Environmental Management.
Welcome back to our program. We're talking about the transportation sales tax and the fact that it's doing its job. It's about, what, 8 years in, Peter, or what, 6?
Yep,
it's about 8 years in, and it's been going strong. And now, how long is this program supposed to last? Until what point?
It's a 25-year sales tax, so it started in 2005 and will end in year 2030. It was written such that it would continue for 25 years or until $1.303 billion is collected. Whichever happens first is when the sales tax would end.
Right. And so it's been going on for just 8 years, and
That's
so
right.
there's quite a few more. I don't expect to be around when you're finished, and you'll probably be up there with a cane or something, but it'll be done, and that's the important thing. There are projects called allocations projects, and you mentioned those at the beginning of this interview. We talked about the large-scale projects like Palmetto Commerce Parkway, and what would Bees Ferry, the project that's underway now, would
Bees
that be
Ferry
considered?
is a bonded project.
It's a bonded project and a large one. But there are other smaller projects like street pavements and bicycle paths and drainage and not so small, but they're not as big as these larger ones, like Johnny Dodd's that has the overpass and all the lights and all those kinds of things. But these are just as important to communities in our area, and we have certainly addressed them under the transportation sales tax program. What's the value of these? Besides, I keep hearing this word connectivity when we talk about sidewalks and all that kind of thing, but what has been the value of having these kinds of projects running right along with the larger ones?
Well, it came out of the comprehensive transportation plan for the sales tax program that recommended, this was back in 2006 or so, that recommended that in addition to the major bond-funded projects that the county use $10.5 million a year throughout the sales tax to put towards what they call annual allocation projects. And those are generally smaller projects. It's broken down, the $10.5 million is broken down into specific categories for resurfacing, which receives $4 million a year from the sales tax, and it goes towards resurfacing local and state roads in Charleston County. $2 million of the 10.5 goes towards intersection improvement projects. And they're generally smaller projects. Some that have been completed are like in North Charleston, Green Ridge Road and Rivers Avenue. Green Ridge Road was improved with the annual allocation program. And another good example is out towards Ravenel. There was the Old Jacksonboro Road at US 17 where some safety and capacity improvements were made. Further breaking down the $10.5 million, you have another $2 million for what are termed local paving projects. Those are, it's typically a earth road paving category where there's actually quite a lot of earth roads in Charleston County. One major project that was completed out of the local paving category was New Road in down on the southern end of the county in the Hollywood Ravenel area. New Road, I think it was about 3 miles long. It was a dirt road that ran between Highway 162 and US 17, and it had very poor drainage, and it was at some times, I think, difficult for people to just make it through because it was an earth road. And so the program, using the annual allocations money, was able to go in there and pave it and do drainage improvements. So now it's another critical link in the infrastructure.
Now these are roads that the county had been servicing for a while, over a period of years maybe, and they now own the road, I would assume, and then they would pave that road.
Well,
that was once a dirt road. Am I thinking about the same thing?
I think that's something, what you're thinking about is a little bit differently, but the similar goals in terms of addressing long-term maintenance issues. The local paving category are typically roads that the county has been maintaining as earth roads for, as many years as anybody can remember. And when they're earth roads, the problem being whenever there's a big rain event, it becomes a big maintenance problem for going out. The county would have to send out crews to grade and smooth the roads to make sure they're passable. So by the local paving category of the sales tax program, you're able to go out and make those paving improvements, which reduces the long-term maintenance costs for the county. And it also improves accessibility for the people that live on those roads. A lot of them are small community roads where, you know, kids are getting dropped off by the school bus at the front of the community, and they're walking back to their homes on a dirt road. And obviously it was a big problem, especially when it rains, to try to walk along a road that really is difficult to maintain. And so by paving it and making drainage improvements, you can really provide a much better asset to the community.
And there's been bicycle pathways as well.
Yep.
That have been built into some of the roads themselves, or the sidewalks, or on the side of the road, I should say.
That's right. Of the $10.5 million, $500,000 annually goes towards bicycle and pedestrian improvements. Some good examples of bike and ped improvements. There's one on James Island, Fort Johnson Road.
That's a long one.
Yep, that's a couple miles of new asphalt path that people can use and exercise on, bicycle on. There's been a number of other smaller projects out throughout the community where you know, you see a gap in a sidewalk where a sidewalk would continue for a little ways, and then there'd be a gap of a mile, and then it would pick back up. Well, the sales tax allows the county to go in there and complete a lot of these you know, missing sections of sidewalk, or in some cases build all new sidewalk that really improves pedestrian access throughout the community.
You know, one of the things that I really like about this program is something that I learned called connectivity. And I think the Johnny Dodds project is a good example of that. Well, many of the projects are a good example of that. But I see neighbors now, the Phillips community, for an example, with the new sidewalk that they have in there, where neighbors are meeting each other midway and walking home together, and school children have places to walk. And when it's rainy or muddy, they're not getting themselves dirty from the mud and the like. But these are all improvements in communities and neighborhoods that count for something.
That's right. Yep.
And it's working.
Yeah, there's been a tremendous number of annual allocation projects that have been completed. There's usually a resurfacing program going on throughout the county at any given point in time as a result of the sales tax program. And
there have been a number of recognitions that the county has gotten besides the ones that you've already mentioned. And a lot of good things have been happening to this county because it's trying to do the right thing by the public in terms of providing roadways and walkways and safe ways in our communities. It's really good. It's a good idea. It's been working.
Yep, I think so.
Thank you. Thank you for talking with me.
Thanks for having me on.
I enjoyed it. I always do. And there's a lot more that we can say about this subject. And we're right here most weeks, so we want you to tune in and hear about the Transportation Sales Tax Program, also known as RoadWise, and we'll bring you as much up-to-date information as we possibly can. So look for us right here and in other places. We have a website as well, and we encourage you to look us up there. Until the next time, I'm Cheryl Harleston. We'll see you then.
The historical and cultural foundations of the nation should be preserved as a living part of our community life and development in order to give a sense of orientation to the American people. So states a section of the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. To that end, it is paramount to preserve the richness of the Lowcountry. Charleston County needed to expand the Palmetto Commerce Parkway to relieve traffic congestion along Dorchester Road and I-26, which run parallel to the parkway. But first, an archaeological survey had to be conducted.
When we conducted the survey, we walked through the swamps that are all around us here, and we quickly encountered several banks and canals and ditches that led us to believe right away that they were parts of inland rice fields.
In fact, all of the former plantations through which the Palmetto Commerce Parkway passes grew inland rice throughout the 18th century that were developed and maintained by enslaved Africans.
Due to this mitigation project, we were able to cut into the banks to study the internal composition of them, the way they were built and constructed. So we're actually learning about the technology involved in the building of these embankments.
Charleston County worked with the South Carolina Department of Archives and History to develop a plan to document and protect these important historical features.
To further educate the local community about the importance of rice and the enslaved Africans whose struggles made it possible, Charleston County has developed a traveling trunk program. The Inland Rice Fields Traveling Trunk Program is an interactive, hands-on educational tool geared towards elementary and middle school students. The program includes lesson plans, classroom activities, replica artifacts, and historical items.
I think Charleston County School District has long been aware of the connection between Charleston and the west coast of Africa, also known as the Rice Coast, as a key part of our local history and the development of the Carolina colony.
I think that our children need to know more about the history of the country. They need to know more of the history of why over 250,000 people were enslaved and brought here and what they did. And the more children understand about the history, the better they're going to become as people.
I think it's pretty cool because it brings things from the 1700s. I think that's cool.
I think it's fantastic because we get to learn about things in the past that other people didn't know about.
I think it's kind of cool because it's kind of showing us stuff from the past.
I want to see this again because I have a feeling that if everybody else sees it, that they'll learn a lot.
If you want to talk about rice production in South Carolina low country, and you have a traveling trunk with items in that trunk that boys and girls can actually look at and feel and smell and listen to and play with, then that's the beginning of concrete, basic understandings that can be developed into abstracts.
Students learn about the plantation economy and the contribution of enslaved African individuals who were brought to this country and ultimately helped develop our economy and helped teach people about how to cultivate rice, how to make rice a lucrative product, and ultimately really contributed to the local development of this area. So we think that puts a lot of pride and self-esteem in our students when they know that their ancestors were part of the beginning of this wonderful area that we live in.
Thank you, Charleston County.